Hi everyone, it's Nat. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about applying to UK university from abroad. Now, I filmed this a couple of days ago and I just sat in front of the camera and talked, and I just realised I just was everywhere and nowhere. I said so many things and they weren't in an order, so I actually have notes this time. So if I look down, I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure to do it in an ordered fashion because I don't want people to get really confused. I'm going to do a 3-part series because I don't want to make the videos too long and kind of a bit boring. I will also timestamp the things I'm talking about, so you can go down in the description and look at a specific part. So I'll be talking about picking a course, a university and a city in my first video, which is today's. Then I'll talk about UCAS, how to apply and go through it in a bit more detail. And then finally I'll be talking about student loan and then accommodation. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the first step of applying to university. Obviously, the title is Applying to University from Abroad because that's how I did it. But I think all of the tips and tricks that I'm going to talk about will be the same for people that are applying from the UK. Obviously, the last video, which is a bit on student loans, might be a bit different. Is obviously picking a course. So you've decided to go to University UK and it's time to kind of pick a course. So obviously around the world courses work differently at universities. I know in America I've heard people saying you have like majors and minors. The way it works at university, so you apply for an undergraduate degree and you can either apply for an undergraduate with a year in industry, undergraduate with a year abroad, or an integrated master's. So the first thing really you want to decide is whether you want to do one of those specific things. So a simple undergraduate is usually about 3 years, and then the year in industry and year abroad are 4 years, and so are the integrated masters. You can also do a year in industry and year abroad with an integrated masters, which brings you up to 5 years, but that is a long time. So obviously I'd recommend only doing that if you want to pursue a job in the degree that you're going into. Once you start university, you are able to change. So if you start off with an undergraduate, like a simple undergraduate course, you then can add the year abroad or year in industry. But I would check because most universities do require you having an average in your first year to be able to apply. I know for my course you had to be on around 60% to be able to apply to the year in industry, so I would definitely check that before you look into it. So when you pick a course, the way it works in the UK is you can pick a general course. So I'll use my example, I did biochem, but when you pick the course you can also decide to do a more specific version of that course. So for example, I did biochem, but I specifically did medical biochem. The degree title is biochem with medical biochem. So it means that I did biochem, but my modules that you usually pick yourself were picked for me and were specific to the medical biochem category. You can either do the general version of your course, in which you'll have a set amount of lectures and then you'll be able to pick extra modules different years. So that's kind of good if you want to do the modules of your course and then pick modules that are not really relevant to your course. So if you want to kind of branch out to a different subject. Or, as I said, on the undergraduate page, there will be options to pick a more specific degree course in what you want to do. For example, my boyfriend's doing physics, but he's doing physics with astrophysics. So his modules are kind of specifically aimed at astrophysics modules. Quite a lot of degrees offer joint honours. So I know a lot of people in my first year that did politics and history, politics and economics, so you have to really look into it. And I'm not sure if that was specific to the university I went to. Definitely have a look around at the websites, but I would have a look at the different university pages and what they offer. But the first thing I would suggest is deciding how long you really want to spend at uni, if you want to do an integrated masters, if you want to do a year abroad or you're in an industry. As I said, it's not too important to kind of decide those extra things now because you can always change throughout your first year. A lot of courses require you to have certain qualifications to join. When you look at the course page on the university that you choose, at the bottom it will say it requires you to have A-levels in certain subjects. I didn't have A-levels, as I'm sure most people that are watching this are applying from abroad don't have. If you're applying from abroad, it will have have the equivalent of the qualification you're doing, because it has A-levels and then it has all the equivalents below, and it will say that you need specific subjects to do specific courses as well as specific grades in those subjects. So again, just have a little wonder, have a little look. It's definitely something to look at, especially if you're about to take your A-level equivalent and obviously you want to get a specific grade to get into that course. Another important point is that in England you apply to university the year before you go to university. So for example, if you want to start university in September 2022, then you need to apply by January 2022, but applications open in September, because if you want to do medicine, you need to have applied by September of the year before. So that's definitely something that's also different from abroad. In Italy, you just apply once you've finished your secondary school qualifications and you just apply with those qualifications, whilst in England you apply with predicted grades. I do quotation marks because again it was something completely new to me, and I will talk more in detail about it in the UCAS section. UCAS, which we'll talk about more in my next video, is the platform in which you apply to university, and it allows you to pick 5 universities, and once you get your offers for them, which again I will explain more in detail in my next video, then you pick your firm choice and then your backup choice. So you've picked a course, you've looked at kind of what you want to do. The course page also will give all the modules. Definitely have a thorough search of the different courses, because there might be a course that's extremely specific for what you want to do. So once you've picked your course, the next thing is to pick what university or city you want to go to. I say university or city because some people would rather have a better university and, you know, they don't mind what city they go into, whilst other people really care about the city and they'd rather have a certain city and then gravitate around that city and find the university that way. So I'll talk about both options. So if you want to look at the university first, definitely go to Complete University Guide rankings. So the Complete University Guide is a website where all the universities in the UK are ranked yearly. So the universities are ranked on graduate prospects, entry requirements, student satisfaction. So by looking at the rankings, you'll be able to see based on what your preference is. So whether you want a university that's got great graduate prospects or you'd rather have one that's got good student satisfaction, you can look at the rating of that specific area. So that can kind of help you get an understanding of which university is best for you. I would definitely also then click the button which ranks the university based on the subject that you've chosen. Because in the UK, the best universities are not necessarily the best for the subjects you want to do. Obviously, different universities are good for different subjects. Once you've looked at the Complete University Guide for your subject, or the Guardian is also ranks the universities. They're actually very different. Like if you look at the rankings, they're actually quite different. So I don't know, maybe look at them and to get like a broader view of the universities, I definitely look at both of them, and they both allow you to look at the rankings for your specific course. That's kind of a good way to gauge which universities you think are best for you. However, I will say, even if you're looking at universities first, I definitely would think about the city that you're going to be in. I think quite a lot of people forget that you are going to be there for 3 to 5 years, and it is somewhere that you're going to call home, especially if you're moving from abroad when you can't really just nip home on the train. I definitely would pick a city that feels like home and that you're going to feel comfortable in. A good way of picking universities as well is just going on Google, to be honest. Nowadays, loads of things are online, so definitely Google the university, look at YouTube videos. That's why I'm doing this video, because when I was applying, I looked at loads of videos. The thing is to go on LinkedIn and Instagram and add the universities on those platforms. And by adding the university on those platforms, you can actually see some alumni as well, and you could message them and ask them how they found the course. Obviously, some people might be too shy to do that, but honestly, it's the best thing to do. Like if someone messaged me and asked me how my experience at Bristol was, I would definitely talk to them about it. And you know, it's not something embarrassing to do. Like you're applying to that university and you want to make sure it's the best thing for you. Go on LinkedIn, go on Instagram, join Facebook groups. Like even if you're not going to end up going to that university, join the Facebook group to that university, you know, see what people are saying. Another big thing is to go to the open days. This is something I didn't do because I didn't know they were a thing. As silly as that sounds for someone that's in England watching this, like I didn't know open days were a thing. They're not really a thing in Italy. Like we have kind of orienteering sessions where they talk about loads of different universities, But yeah, go to the open days. Obviously, if you're living abroad, you can't go to the open days, but most open days now are online. And I know some of the bigger universities that have more international students have always done online open days. If you can afford or are able to fly over and go to the open day, I definitely would, because that kind of helps you get a feel for the place. And sometimes it takes going to the university and thinking, yeah, this is where I want to be, for it to click. The online open days are just as good. Go to the general university open day and to your course open day. So once you've looked at the universities and kind of got an idea of what's out there, I would definitely also take in consideration things that might be a priority to you, such as what's the nightlife like, what clubs the university has, whether they have certain sport clubs that you want to join. You can also look at the university's student union, because I think that's where the information is about the clubs. So if you Google the university you're going to and then just put student union, that I know then quite a lot of them have that information on the student union website. But again, that just depends on the university, whether it's a campus or not a campus university. A lot of people love campuses because you've got everything there close to the university building. You can live close to university building, but I also know that a lot of campuses in your second year you have to move away, and when you end up moving away it actually does become a bit further than normal universities. But that's definitely something to look at. Like, some people thrive in campus universities, other people would rather be in a city university, want a city. So if you're looking for a city first, I would definitely, first things first, is kind of get in your mind what priorities you want from that city. And by that I mean, do you want a city that's got good weather? I know in England that's kind of hard to, well, the UK, that's kind of hard to pick. But for example, I grew up in the south of Italy in a little village where it's always really hot. So when I was applying to universities, my mum said to me, you know, are you sure? Because my first choice was Newcastle. Absolutely love Newcastle. It was because I watched a bit too much Geordie Shore, but we're not going to talk about that. It just looked really fun to me. And my mum was like, you know, Newcastle is really, really cold. As silly as that sound. Do you want to be in that weather for like 9 months a year, or, you know, probably 11 months a year? And it's something to think about. If you want to apply to universities that are more north, or, you know, Scottish universities, you do have to think about that. And some people actually do want to be in that sort of temperature. Like, I know my friend from back home, she applied to Edinburgh Uni because that's where she wanted to be, and she absolutely loves it. She doesn't mind the cold at all, even though she grew up in the same climate I did. So when you're picking the city, definitely do keep that in mind, because obviously the southern regions are much warmer than the northern areas. Whether you want to be in a hot place or cold place, whether, you know, you want to be in a big city or a smaller city or a town, whether you want to be close to an airport or a train station, these are things to take in consideration when you're picking the right city to go to university if you're coming from abroad. For example, I didn't really want to be in London. As I said, I grew up in a very small town in southern Italy, and for me London just seemed a bit big and scary and chaotic. So I went for Bristol, because Bristol is a city that feels like a town. It is a city, it's got all the amenities you need of a city, but it feels like a town, and that's why I chose it. And there are so many places out there like that. Or if you're someone that wants to be in London and wants to have loads of opportunities, because obviously when you go to university in London, you do kind of have a bit more there to do, and, you know, the graduate jobs there at your doorstep. I know quite a lot of people do end up going to London for graduate jobs. Then that's great. Look at the London universities. Definitely think about what your priorities are and then work from there. Once you've figured out your priorities, it's pretty easy to look. Google's your best friend, and it's really easy to find information out there if you already know what you're looking for. For me, again, came from a really small town, so crime ratings and safety was my main priority. Obviously, the UK is pretty safe, and depending where you come from in the world, it might be safer or less safer than where you come from. Just Googled, you know, crime ratings by the university, like around kind of the areas where I'd be spending most of my time. And that was a priority for me. And again, like, you can just find all of this information on Google if you look hard enough. I would say, to end this video off, is that as much as you can research and look and make sure that everything's perfect, at the end of the day, once you are in the UK, you can always move around. You can always change university, you can change course. So obviously do as much research as possible. That's what I did. I was also very thankful to have my dad, who is English, so he went to university here, albeit quite a while ago, but he still helped me. At the end of the day, what I figured out coming here is that you can always change and look at other things once you're here, so I wouldn't worry too much. Like, it shouldn't be a stressful process, it should be an exciting process, especially if you're moving away from abroad. So that's the end of my video. I hope that I didn't blab too much, and I hope that I actually said things in a concise way, because I got really like confused halfway through. I feel like even having notes is just so hard to kind of get everything out there. But if there are any other questions that you have, please leave them in the comments down below, or you can message me directly on Instagram. I will leave my Instagram here. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. I went to the University of Bristol and I did medical biochem, so if any of you want to apply to that university or apply to that course, feel free to message me. As I said, either leave a comment in the comments down below or message me on Instagram. I will try to do my next video as soon as possible, because obviously the UCAS process, I think, is what people struggle most on. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I really hope that I was helpful to someone. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all in my next video. Bye!